I was standing at the altar on Valentine's Day, watching my wife of 10 years smile at 150 of our closest friends and family, waiting for me to renew vows I'd already decided to break. And she had no idea I'd spent the last 3 weeks documenting every lie, every hotel receipt, and every text message that proved she'd been sleeping with her coworker while I worked 48-hour shifts saving lives. If you've got some time and maybe something to drink, settle in. This one's long and it gets dark before it gets better. I'm Christopher, by the way. Chris, I'm a firefighter in Charlotte, North Carolina. Or I was just a firefighter. Now I'm the guy who blew up his marriage in front of a church full of people on the most romantic day of the year. Depends on who you ask whether that makes me a hero or a villain. So, why did I let the ceremony happen at all? Why not just cancel, file for divorce, and move on quietly like a normal person? Because 3 weeks before that Valentine's Day, I discovered my wife Lauren had been cheating on me for 6 months. And in those 3 weeks, I learned something about myself I didn't know before. I'm not the kind of guy who walks away quietly when someone spends half a year making me feel crazy for noticing the truth. This is the story of how I went from the devoted husband who ignored every red flag, to the guy who gathered evidence like a detective, to the man who turned a sacred vow renewal ceremony into the reckoning my wife never saw coming. It's about betrayal, gaslighting, revenge, and what happens when you finally stop being nice and start being honest. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met Lauren in 2013. I was 26, she was 24. I'd been a firefighter for about 3 years. Still young enough to think I was invincible, but old enough to have seen some bad things. We met at Monroe Medical Center. I brought in a trauma patient from a car accident, and she was the nurse on duty. Beautiful, competent, kind to the injured guy, even though he was belligerent and drunk. After the patient stabilized, I did something I'd never done before. I asked her out right there in the ER hallway. I know it was unprofessional. I didn't care. She said yes. Our first date was coffee, then hiking. Then I brought her to church. I grew up going to Grace Community every Sunday, and it mattered to me that whoever I ended up with could share that. She fit right in. My family loved her. Her family loved me. We got engaged after 2 years, and I proposed on a hiking trail in the mountains, same place we'd gone on our second date. She cried. I cried. It felt perfect. We got married on Valentine's Day 2015. Small ceremony at Grace Community Church. Maybe 80 people. I remember standing at that altar, watching her walk down the aisle in this simple white dress, and thinking I was the luckiest man alive. When we said our vows, I meant every word. I promise to honor you, forsake all others, and love you till death do us part. She said the same. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? The first few years were good, really good. We bought a house together in 2017. Nothing fancy, a 3-bedroom ranch in Valentine, but it was ours. We combined our bank accounts, merged our friend groups, became one of those couples that did everything together. I was climbing the ranks at the fire department. She was steady at the hospital. We went to church every Sunday, volunteered with the youth group, hosted dinners. Everyone called us couple goals. I remember her best friend Sarah commenting on one of our Instagram photos. "You two are perfect," Lauren replied with a heart emoji. But looking back now, there were cracks I didn't want to see. Small things, like how she'd had 3 boyfriends before me, but anytime I asked about them, she'd change the subject. "The past is the past," she'd say. Or how during our honeymoon in Asheville, she was on her phone constantly. I chalked it up to work stress. I was good at chalking things up to stress. The real drift started around 2021. COVID hit, and as a firefighter, I was essential. Long shifts, bad calls, trauma I couldn't talk about, because what do you say? "Hey honey, I pulled a dead kid out of a car today. How was your shift?" Lauren became distant, stopped coming to church as regularly, spent more time on her phone. Our sex life went from weekly to monthly to maybe once every 6 weeks if I was lucky. When I suggested couples therapy, she said I was overreacting. "Everyone goes through phases," she'd tell me. "You're just stressed from work." And maybe I was. But then other things started happening. She changed jobs 4 times in 6 years, 4 different hospitals. Every time there was a reason: toxic workplace, bad manager, needed a change. I supported her every time. What kind of husband wouldn't? But my best friend Marcus, another firefighter at my station, pulled me aside once and said, Man, doesn't it seem weird she keeps leaving jobs? I defended her. Of course I did. Then there was the kids conversation. I'd always wanted children. So did she. Or at least that's what she said when we got married. But around 2022, she started delaying. Not yet, I'm not ready. Then in late 2023, she finally told me, I don't think I want kids anymore. I was devastated, but I loved her, so I said, okay. We'd figure it out. We'd be enough for each other. Except we weren't. By late 2023, she was working night shifts constantly. Or she said she was. She'd come home smelling like new perfume. She joined this intense Pilates studio, became obsessed with her appearance, started mentioning work friends I'd never met. One name came up a lot. Scott. Scott from the unit said this. Scott recommended this restaurant. I asked to meet him once. She said it was weird to mix work and home life. When I'd expressed concern, gently, because I didn't want to seem controlling, she'd flip it on me. You're being paranoid. You're smothering me. Maybe if you weren't gone all the time on your shifts, you'd understand I need my own life. I started doubting myself. Was I being paranoid? Was I the problem? Christmas 2023 was tense. Lauren barely engaged with my family. My sister Emma pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay. I lied and said we were fine. Then came New Year's. We were sitting on the couch, both on our phones, barely talking, and Lauren suddenly said, "What if we renewed our vows?" I looked up, surprised. She explained, "For our 10th anniversary, February 14th, a fresh start. We've been drifting apart. Maybe this would help us reconnect." I should have been suspicious, but instead I was relieved, hopeful. She wanted to fix things. She wanted to try. I said yes immediately. We booked Grace Community Church for February 14th, 2024. Same place we'd gotten married 10 years later. She wanted it to be big. I wanted it modest. We compromised on 150 guests, a professional photographer, catered reception, and rings. She insisted we upgrade our wedding rings. $12,000 for both. I hesitated. It was a lot. But she said it symbolized our new chapter. So I agreed. January 2024 rolled around. Invitations went out. RSVPs came back. Lauren seemed excited, planning everything, posting about it on Instagram. I worked my shifts, came home exhausted, and she'd be on her phone in the bedroom with the door closed. One night, January 20th, I came home after a 48-hour shift, and she was cold, dismissive. I tried to kiss her. She turned her head, said she needed space. I slept on the couch that night. I told myself it was stress from planning the vow renewal. I had no idea that was the last normal night I'd ever have. January 24th, 2024. That was the day everything changed. I had a rare day off. Lauren thought I was working because that's what my original schedule showed. But we'd had a shift swap last minute. I decided to surprise her. I'd bring home lunch. Maybe we'd actually talk for once. I got home around 2 p.m. Her car was gone. Weird. She'd told me that morning she was staying home all day catching up on sleep. I called her. She answered on the second ring, sounding normal. "Hey babe, what's up?" I asked where she was. She said, "Oh, I'm at Target, picking up some decorations for the vow renewal." I said okay and hung up. Then I checked Find My iPhone. We'd always shared locations, safety thing, especially with my job. Her dot was at the Foxcroft Hotel, 15 minutes from our house. Not Target, the Foxcroft Hotel. I sat in my truck in our driveway for 20 minutes staring at that dot. My hands were shaking. There had to be an explanation. Maybe she was meeting a friend there for lunch. Maybe the GPS was wrong. Maybe I was crazy just like she always said. But I wasn't crazy. I pulled up our joint credit card statement on my phone. We shared an account, had for years. I scrolled through recent charges. And there it was, Foxcroft Hotel, $189, charged 4 days ago. I kept scrolling. Another charge, 2 weeks before that. Another, I counted them. 12 charges to the Foxcroft Hotel over 6 months, starting in August 2023. Always on days I worked 48-hour shifts. Always 189s. Over $4,500 total. I also saw charges for expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never been to. Ulta makeup purchases. Lauren usually didn't wear much makeup. Lingerie from a boutique I'd never heard of. All on our joint card. all while I was at work, saving people's lives. That's when I knew that was the moment, and I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed either. Lauren came home around 6 p.m. that evening, cheerful, kissed me hello like nothing was wrong. Over dinner, she talked about vow renewal plans, showed me napkin colors on her phone. I played along, asked questions. How was Target? She gave me this elaborate story about traffic and long lines and finding the perfect centerpieces. Every word was a lie. That night, she fell asleep before me for once. She was usually on her phone until late, but she'd had a long day. I waited 30 minutes to make sure she was out. Then I took her phone from the nightstand. I knew her passcode, 0214, our anniversary. I opened her messages. The contact was labeled Sarah W., but when I opened it, the text said Scott at the top before she'd renamed it. 6 months of messages, explicit texts, photos I will never be able to unsee. I love you. I can't wait to leave him. Tonight was amazing. And him responding, you're incredible. That idiot husband of yours has no idea what he's losing. I scrolled and scrolled. There was one from just the day before, January 23rd. Lauren had written, the vow renewal is perfect. It'll make the divorce look less suspicious. Everyone will think we really tried. Then after a few months, I'll file and no one can say I didn't give it a real shot. Then I'm all yours. Scott replied, you're brilliant. I love you so much. Can't wait to start our real life together. I sat there in the dark, holding her phone, and I felt my entire world collapse. 10 years, a decade of my life. I'd given her everything. My loyalty, my trust, my money, my future. I'd let her gaslight me for half a year, convinced myself I was paranoid, that I was the problem, and she was planning to use a sacred ceremony, vows in a church, as cover for her betrayal. I put the phone back exactly where it was. I walked out to the garage so she wouldn't hear me, and I broke. I punched the wall. I sat on the concrete floor, and I cried like I hadn't cried since my mother died when I was 24. I wanted to scream. I wanted to go back in there and shake her awake and demand the truth. I wanted to burn everything down. But then something shifted in me. My paramedic training kicked in. When there's a crisis, you don't panic. You assess. You gather data. You make a plan. If I confronted her right then, she'd lie. She'd gaslight me. She'd probably even accuse me of being abusive or paranoid. She'd already laid the groundwork for that, telling me I was smothering her, that I was the one with issues. If I confronted her without undeniable proof, I'd lose. So instead, I made a decision. I was going to gather everything, every piece of evidence, every receipt, every text, every lie. And I was going to use the vow renewal, the ceremony she was planning as her cover story, to expose her, in front of everyone. Some promises aren't meant to be kept. Some are meant to be weaponized. The next day, January 25th, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. I spent the entire day in my home office with the door locked, organizing evidence. I screenshotted every single text message between her and Scott, over 500 messages. I downloaded credit card statements going back a year. I created a spreadsheet with dates, locations, charges, and which of my work shifts corresponded to each hotel visit. The pattern was undeniable. Every time I worked a 48-hour shift, she'd check into the Foxcroft Hotel with Scott, like clockwork. I researched North Carolina divorce law. Adultery is grounds for at-fault divorce here. It affects alimony. She'd get nothing if I could prove it. I bought a hidden camera for our bedroom, legal in North Carolina if it's your own home. I bought a voice-activated recorder. I was going to document everything. The next day, January 26th, I pulled Marcus aside at the fire station. Marcus Thompson, my best friend since academy days. Married, 3 kids, solid guy. I told him everything, showed him the texts. Marcus's first reaction was, I'm going to kill him. Tell me where he works and I'll beat his ass. I told him no, that wouldn't help. Marcus took a breath and said, okay, then here's what you do. Document everything. Get a lawyer now, protect yourself financially, and whatever you do, don't let her know you know. He told me about his brother, who'd gone through something similar and got destroyed in the divorce because he didn't prepare. Marcus said, make her think she won, then take it all away when she least expects it. On January 28th, I met with a divorce attorney named Patricia Chen. She'd been recommended by Marcus's brother. I showed her everything, the texts, the credit card statements, the timeline. Patricia looked at me and said, "You have an airtight case. With this level of proof, she won't get alimony. The adultery, the financial misappropriation, using joint funds, the gaslighting, you'll come out ahead." She told me her strategy. Keep gathering evidence, don't alert Lauren to anything, and serve papers at the optimal time. It cost me $5,000 up front. I paid it from a personal savings account Lauren didn't know I had, money I had been setting aside from overtime shifts, just in case we ever needed it for an emergency. Turns out, this qualified. Then came February 1st. I started having symptoms. Burning when I used the bathroom. I got tested at the fire department's medical office. The results came back. Chlamydia. Curable, thank God, but the implications were clear. Lauren and I had been intimate maybe 3 times in the last 6 months. She'd given me an STI, she'd been sleeping with Scott unprotected, and then coming home to me. I'd never been with anyone else. It could only have come from her. I was enraged. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. She'd endangered my health. I told Patricia. She said we could potentially add a negligence claim, possible emotional distress, damages. But more importantly, it was one more piece of ironclad evidence. I told Patricia my plan. I wanted to expose Lauren at the vow renewal, in front of everyone. She warned me, "It's risky. It could backfire emotionally. You might regret it. But legally, you're allowed. Just make sure you have undeniable proof so she can't claim you fabricated anything." I said I was sure, and I was. Because for 6 months, Lauren had made me feel small. She'd made me feel like I was losing my mind. She'd turned every concern I had back on me, made me the problem, made me apologize for noticing her lies. I was done being quiet. She chose a public ceremony in a church. She'd face public consequences in that same church. The week before Valentine's Day, I shifted into execution mode. I pretended everything was fine. Better than fine, actually. I increased my affection toward her, kissed her goodbye in the morning, bought her flowers, told her how excited I was for the vow renewal. She was confused at first. "You seem happier lately." But she went with it. Of course she did. It made her life easier. I picked up the upgraded rings from the jeweler, $12,000 charged to our joint account. I kept the receipt. I already knew I'd be returning them after February 14th. The RSVPs came in, 152 guests confirmed, catering finalized, photographer booked. Everything was moving forward exactly as planned. Except, I was planning something very different from Lauren. I wrote 2 sets of vows. One was the fake set I'd shown Lauren, traditional, loving, full of commitment and hope for the future. The other was the real set, the one only I had seen. It was a detailed timeline of her affair, with dates, locations, and amounts. I'd memorized it. I also created a PowerPoint presentation, 47 slides. The first 10 slides were normal, photos from our wedding, happy moments over 10 years, things that made it look like a tribute video. Slides 11 through 47 were screenshots of texts between Lauren and Scott, hotel receipts with dates highlighted, GPS location data, Instagram photos Lauren had posted with captions like "Lazy Sunday at home," time-stamped to match hotel charges. The final slide was simple text. "Lauren, I promise to honor you until death do us part. You promise the same. Today I'm returning those vows with receipts." I coordinated with the church's AV tech, a friend from our congregation named Tyler. I told him I was doing a surprise slideshow tribute and needed his help with setup. He was enthusiastic. "Man, that's so romantic. She's going to love it." I didn't correct him. I prepared the divorce papers with Patricia. They were filed, notarized, ready to be served. I hired an off-duty cop friend of Marcus's to act as the process server. He'd be in the audience waiting for my signal. February 13th, the night before Valentine's Day, Lauren was giddy with excitement. "I can't believe it's finally here," she said. "Tomorrow's going to be so special." I watched her get ready for bed and thought, some promises aren't meant to be kept. They're meant to be weaponized. I didn't sleep that night. I reviewed the plan over and over. At 3 a.m., I drove to the church and delivered the USB drive with the PowerPoint to Tyler, told him I'd give him a signal during the ceremony when to start it. He thought it was part of the surprise. I came back home. Lauren was asleep. I sat in the living room in the dark, watching her through the bedroom doorway, and thought, this is the last night she'll sleep peacefully. Valentine's Day morning, February 14th, 2024. I woke up on the couch. I hadn't slept. Lauren was already up, cheerful, making coffee in the kitchen. "Happy anniversary, baby. Happy Valentine's Day." She kissed me, started talking about how beautiful today would be, how much it meant to her. I almost threw up. She was that good at lying. While she was in the shower, I checked her phone one last time. There was a text to Scott from the night before, sent at 11:47 p.m. "Tomorrow is the performance of my life, LOL. After this, everyone will think we really tried to make it work. Then I'm all yours. I love you so much." Scott had replied, "You're amazing. I'll be thinking of you tomorrow. Wish I could be there to see the idiot's face when he thinks you still love him." I took a screenshot, added it as the final slide to my PowerPoint. Then I got dressed. We got ready separately. When she asked me to zip up her white dress, my hands were shaking. She thought it was emotion. "I'm nervous too," she said. "This means so much." I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled and told her she looked beautiful. And she did. That was the worst part. We drove to the church separately. She said she wanted to arrive separately for a dramatic entrance. Really, she wanted to text Scott the whole way there. I knew because I checked the phone bill later. 47 texts between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. that day. I got to Grace Community around 1 p.m. The ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m. Guests were arriving. I saw my family, my dad, my sister Emma. I saw Lauren's family, her parents, her brother Matthew, her sister Rachel. I saw firefighters from my station. I saw Lauren's coworkers from the hospital. And yes, I saw Scott Davidson. He was there, bold enough to show up, sitting near the back in a suit, smirking. Marcus pulled me aside in the church hallway. "You sure about this?" he asked. I'd never been more sure of anything in my life. He said, "I'll be right there. If you need an exit, I got you." My father approached me, looking concerned. "You okay, son? You look pale." I told him, "I'm about to do something I should have done a long time ago, Dad. Stand up for myself." He didn't understand, but he nodded and hugged me. At 1:45 p.m., Lauren pulled me into a side room off the sanctuary. She wanted a private moment before the ceremony. She held my hands, tears in her eyes. "I just want you to know, this means everything to me. I'm so glad we're doing this. I love you." I looked into her eyes and saw nothing but performance. Empty. Fake. I said, "I made you a promise 10 years ago. Today I'm going to keep it, just not the way you think." She laughed, thought I was being romantic. "You're so sweet." That was the last time I called her my wife in my heart. Everything after was just paperwork. The ceremony began at 2 p.m. Music played, canon in D, same as our wedding. I walked down the aisle with my father, took my position at the altar. Pastor Mike, the man who'd married us 10 years earlier, stood between us, smiling, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Then Lauren entered. White dress, bouquet, radiant smile. She walked down the aisle with her father, and I heard guests whispering, "She's so beautiful. They look so happy." She reached the altar. Her father gave her hand to me, sat down in the front row. She whispered, "I'm so nervous." I whispered back, "Don't be. Everything's about to be very clear." Pastor Mike began. "We are gathered here today to witness Christopher and Lauren renew their sacred vows of marriage. 10 years ago, they stood in this very spot and pledged their lives to one another. Today, they recommit to that promise, to that love, and to the journey ahead." Standard ceremony language, readings about love, commitment, honoring one another. Lauren held my hand, smiling, tears forming in her eyes. I scanned the audience, my family looking proud, her family beaming, Scott in the back, looking smug and satisfied. 152 people who had no idea what was coming. Pastor Mike said, "Lauren, would you like to share your vows?" She pulled out a piece of paper, the vows she'd written and shown me beforehand. "Christopher," she began, her voice soft and emotional. 10 years ago, I promised to love you forever. You've been my rock, my best friend, my soulmate. I'm so grateful for every moment we've shared, the good times and the hard times. You've stood by me through everything. Today, I promise to recommit myself to you, to honor you, to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. I love you. Always. Guests were crying. Someone said, "Aw." I watched her deliver this performance and thought, she's incredible. She lied to 152 people without flinching, and I was about to destroy her. Pastor Mike turned to me. "Christopher, your vows?" I pulled out my paper, not the fake one Lauren had seen, the real one. I took a deep breath, made eye contact with her. She was smiling, expectant. "Lauren," I began, 10 years ago, we stood in this exact spot and made promises to each other." She nodded, eyes shining. "You promised to forsake all others, to honor me, to be faithful until death do us part." A few guests nodded. Someone said, "Amen." For 10 years, I believed you kept those promises. I believed we were building a life together. I paused. My voice hardened. "But 3 weeks ago, I discovered that you've been lying to me for 6 months. Lauren's face went from confusion to panic in a second. She whispered urgently, "What are you doing?" I continued, louder now. "On August 15th, 2023, while I was working a 48-hour shift at the fire station, you checked into the Foxcroft Hotel with your coworker, Scott Davidson." Gasps rippled through the church. Heads turned toward the back, looking for Scott. I saw him freeze, his face pale. Lauren grabbed my arm. "Chris, stop. This isn't—" I raised my voice. "You've been having an affair for 6 months. And you thought renewing our vows would make your eventual divorce look less suspicious." The church erupted in whispers. Lauren's mother put her hand over her mouth. I signaled to Tyler at the AV booth. The screen behind the altar flickered to life. Lauren tried to grab my arm again. "Stop this right now." Marcus stepped forward from his best man position, gently but firmly blocking her path. The first slide appeared. Title: Our Journey, 2013-2024, The Truth. "Everyone here deserves to know who you really are," I said. The slides began auto-advancing. The first few were normal, our wedding photos, happy memories. Then slide 6 appeared, a scanned hotel receipt. Foxcroft Hotel, $189, dated August 15th, 2023, charged to our joint credit card, highlighted in yellow. Slide 7. A screenshot of a text message. "Lauren to Scott. I can't wait to see you tonight. Christopher's working late again. He'll never know." The church was silent now. Horrified, breathless silence. More slides, more receipts, more texts. Dates marching forward chronologically. September, October, November, December, January. The evidence was overwhelming. Slide 16. Lauren to Scott. "He's so boring. I can't stand another night pretending to care about his day. I can't wait to be done with this." Lauren's father stood up from his seat. His face was bright red, but I couldn't tell if he was angry at me or at her. Slide 17, Scott to Lauren. "Can't wait until you're finally free. That idiot doesn't know what he's losing. His loss, my gain." I narrated over the slides. "Over 6 months, you spent $4,180 of our money on hotel rooms to sleep with him. You lied about working night shifts. You were with him. You gaslit me when I asked questions, made me think I was crazy, made me apologize for noticing your lies." Slide 23 appeared. A medical document, patient name redacted but diagnosis clear. Chlamydia test results, positive, dated February 2024. "And in December," I said, my voice cold and steady. "You gave me chlamydia, which means you weren't even using protection with him." Lauren's mother let out a sob. "Oh my God!" Her father was yelling now, though I couldn't hear what he was saying over the chaos. Lauren turned to Pastor Mike, desperate. "Stop him! Make him stop! He's having a mental breakdown!" Pastor Mike looked paralyzed, frozen between us. I pulled out an envelope from my jacket. "I have 6 months of evidence, text messages, credit card statements, GPS locations, medical records. You wanted public vows, Lauren. Here they are." The final slide appeared on the screen behind me. "Lauren, I promise to honor you until death do us part. You promised the same. Today, I'm returning those vows, with receipts. We're done." I handed the envelope to the process server, who'd moved up from the audience at my signal. He approached Lauren and held out the papers. "Lauren Brennan, you're being served." She took them with shaking hands, opened the first page, and read, "Petition for divorce. Christopher Brennan versus Lauren Brennan, filed February 13th, 2024. She collapsed to her knees, literally fell, white dress pooling around her. She screamed, "You bastard! You planned this! You set me up!" "No," I said calmly. "You set yourself up. I just made sure everyone knew." Then I turned to the audience. I spotted Scott trying to sneak out the back door. "Scott Davidson," I called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Lauren's affair partner. Stand up. Take a bow." Scott froze. Every head turned toward him. "Also, Scott, I've already contacted HR at Monroe Medical. Your employment there is complicated now. Ethics violations and harassment complaints from your ex-wives, not sealed anymore. Good luck with that." Scott bolted, ran out of the church like a coward. Several of my firefighter buddies followed him out, not to hurt him, just to make sure he left. The church descended into chaos. My family rushed toward me, hugging me, telling me they were proud. Lauren's family was yelling at her, her father. "How could you do this to us?" Her mother sobbing, trying to comfort Lauren, but Lauren pushed her away, screaming, "Get away from me, all of you!" Some guests were leaving. Some were recording on their phones. Some were standing in shock. Pastor Mike tried to regain control. "This is a house of God. This is not how I interrupted him. She made vows in this house of God. She broke them. I just told the truth." And then I walked down the aisle, alone. Some people applauded, mostly firefighters and my close friends. Others stared in stunned silence. As I reached the church doors, I turned back one last time. Saw Lauren still on the floor, mascara running, surrounded by her family who didn't know whether to comfort her or condemn her. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt something. But all I felt was free. Outside, the sunlight was blinding. Marcus followed me out. "Holy shit, man. You actually did it." "Yeah," I said. "I did. Now what?" The immediate aftermath was chaos. I went to Marcus's house that night because I couldn't go home. Lauren was there, and I didn't trust what might happen. My phone was flooded. 87 missed calls. Over 200 texts. Some supportive. "You're a hero. She deserved it. I'm so sorry you went through that." Some angry. "What you did was cruel. You humiliated her publicly. That was abuse, not justice." Some just curious. "What happens now? Are you okay?" I turned my phone off and drank whiskey with Marcus in silence. By February 17th, videos of the reveal were all over social media. Facebook groups in Charlotte were blowing up. Someone posted it on Reddit, r pro revenge, r relationship, ask advice. The local news picked it up. Valentine's Day vow renewal turns into public divorce reveal. I didn't engage with any of it, but I read the comments. Half the people thought I was justified. The other half thought I was vindictive and cruel. There were even misogynistic trolls saying, "All women are like this." I hated those comments almost as much as I hated what Lauren had done. Lauren deleted all her social media, made everything private, disappeared from the internet. My family rallied around me. My dad was proud but worried. "Son, you stood up for yourself, and I respect that. But be ready for backlash." My sister Emma flew in from Raleigh. She was supportive, but asked the hard question. "Are you going to be okay?" I told her I would be. I wasn't sure I believed it. Lauren's family was shattered. I heard through mutual friends that her father was furious, initially at me, but after seeing the full evidence, he turned on Lauren. At a family dinner, he apparently told her, "You've embarrassed this family, you humiliated yourself, and you deserved what happened." Her mother tried to defend her. She made a mistake, but even she couldn't justify 6 months of calculated lies. Then came the professional fallout. Monroe Medical launched an HR investigation. Multiple coworkers confirmed Lauren and Scott had been having an affair at work. Hospital policy required disclosure of romantic relationships. Theirs wasn't disclosed. Plus, Scott was a physician assistant, higher rank than Lauren's RN position, which meant power dynamic concerns. On February 20th, Lauren was placed on administrative leave. By February 28th, she was fired for ethics violations. Scott was terminated immediately. The investigation into him uncovered sealed harassment complaints from his 2 ex-wives. A nurse practitioner came forward, saying Scott had made inappropriate advances 8 months earlier, but she'd been afraid to report it. His PA license was suspended. He tried to contact Lauren afterward, one final text before she blocked him. "You ruined my life." Financially, Lauren was destroyed. The divorce proceedings moved quickly with Patricia's evidence package, North Carolina law. Adultery means no alimony. The house had to be decided. My name was on the mortgage. I could afford payments. She couldn't. She had to move out. Our joint savings of $28,000 was supposed to split 50-50, see, but I argued for more due to the hotel spending. We settled at 60-40 in my favor. By March, Lauren had no job, no income, and had to move back in with her parents at age 36. She had to sell her car because she couldn't afford the loan. Her credit was destroyed. At work, I faced minimal consequences. My fire chief called me in, said, "I'm sorry you went through that, but next time, maybe handle it privately." I told him respectfully there wouldn't be a next time, and she needed to be held accountable. He said, "Fair enough, get back to work." 2 coworkers who had been friends with Lauren through church iced me out for a few weeks, but that was it. Then came February 25th, the day that made me question everything. My sister called. "Chris, I need to tell you something. Mom's friend saw Lauren at church last Sunday. She had a panic attack, a bad one," Emma explained. Lauren had tried to attend a service at Grace Community. Different time than usual, thought I wouldn't be there. People recognized her, whispered, stared. Lauren made it to the parking lot before collapsing. Full panic attack, hyperventilating, couldn't breathe. Someone called 911. She spent 6 hours in the ER. They treated her for acute anxiety, gave her medication. Emma said quietly, "Chris, I support you. You know I do. But she's not okay. Like, really not okay." Guilt hit me like a truck. Did I break her? Was public humiliation too far? Was I the villain now? I called Patricia. Should I reach out? Do something? Patricia was firm. Legally, no contact. Emotionally, that's your call. But remember what she did to you. I decided no contact, but the guilt stayed. Over the next few weeks, I heard updates. Lauren had lost her entire social circle. Her best friend, Sarah, posted on Facebook, "I can't support what Lauren did. Cheating is never okay." Every friend except 2 abandoned her. The church issued a statement from Pastor Mike. "We condemn both infidelity and public humiliation. Both parties need healing." Some members left over it, feeling he was too soft on adultery. The church offered counseling to both of us. I declined. Lauren attended. By March, Lauren was in a spiral, not leaving her parents' house, depressed, gaining weight. Started therapy, court mandated for the divorce. Tried to find nursing work, couldn't. Her reputation in Charlotte was too damaged. On March 5th, I got an email from her. Just one. "I'm sorry. I know you won't believe me. I destroyed everything. I deserve what happened. But I need you to know, I'm sorry." Patricia advised me not to respond. I didn't. But I wasn't okay either. I appeared fine to everyone, went back to work, functioned normally. But internally, I was struggling. Nightmares about the reveal, watching Lauren collapse over and over in my dreams. I was hypervigilant, checking locks obsessively, convinced she might retaliate. I avoided Grace Community Church, couldn't go back to the place where it all happened. I had trust issues. If I couldn't see her lies for 6 months, what else was I blind to? Marcus noticed. "You're not sleeping, you're losing weight. You need to talk to someone." I resisted. "I'm fine. She's the one who cheated." But I wasn't fine. Finally, in mid-March, Marcus convinced me. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Jennings. She specialized in trauma and betrayal. First session, I was defensive. "I don't need therapy. I'm not the one who cheated." She said gently, "Betrayal is trauma, and revenge doesn't erase it." Over the next few weeks, we worked through it. I processed things I hadn't wanted to admit. The marriage wasn't perfect before the affair. I'd avoided conflict, ignored red flags, let things slide. The public revenge had given me control when I felt powerless, but it had also isolated me. I had to forgive myself for not seeing the signs sooner. On April 5th, the divorce was finalized. Lauren and I were in the same courtroom for the first time since Valentine's Day. She looked different, thin, pale, wouldn't make eye contact. The judge reviewed the case. Evidence was overwhelming. Divorce granted, no alimony, assets split as negotiated. She kept her maiden name, Patterson. As we left the courthouse, she tried to speak. "Chris, I cut her off. "Don't, we're done. Move on." That was the last time we spoke. Slowly I started rebuilding, returned to work full-time, accepted Marcus's invitation to his daughter's birthday party, my first social event since the reveal. Other firefighter families were supportive. One wife, Jessica, approached me. "My ex cheated on me too. What you did took guts." I felt less alone. I couldn't return to Grace Community Church, too many memories, but I found a smaller church across town. Different denomination. No one knew my story. I sat in the back and just listened. I took up woodworking, something my dad taught me as a kid. Built bookshelves, a small table, a birdhouse, creating something tangible. Fixing things helped me process. For months, I'd been tearing something down. My marriage, Lauren's life. It felt good to build something again. In early May, my sister set me up on a date. Her friend Megan, 34, elementary school teacher, divorced 2 years ago. We met for coffee. It was awkward at first. Megan knew my story. Emma had told her, but she didn't judge. I'm not going to pretend I don't know, but I'm not going to define you by it either. We talked for 3 hours. Books, work, hobbies, past relationships. It was the first time in months I felt light. We agreed to a second date. Nothing serious. Just seeing what happens. One night in mid-May, I sat on my porch with a drink and reflected. I thought revenge would fix me. It didn't. It just made things even. I didn't regret what I did. Lauren needed to face consequences. But I paid a price too. I lost my innocence, my ability to trust easily, my church, some friends. But I gained something, self-respect. The knowledge that I wouldn't let anyone make me feel small again. I thought about Lauren, wondered if she was okay. Then stopped myself. Not my problem anymore. My father visited in late May, brought a box. "I found this going through your mother's things. She wanted you to have it when you were ready." Inside were letters my mom wrote before she died. One was dated for when your heart is broken. Her advice, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to fight back. But don't let anger become who you are. Forgive, not for them, but for you. I cried reading it, first real cry since the reveal. I realized I hadn't forgiven Lauren. Maybe I never would fully, but I could let go. By the end of May, I made decisions. I kept the house. It was my home now, not ours. I redecorated, new paint, new furniture, removed all traces of Lauren, started hosting again. Marcus and his family came for dinner, game nights with friends. The second date with Megan went well, then a third. We were taking it slow. The relationship felt different from Lauren. Megan communicated. We fought productively. I trusted her because she was consistent. I pursued a promotion at work, captain position. My therapy sessions with Dr. Jennings dropped to monthly maintenance. She told me, "You're not healed, but you're healing. That's enough." 6 months later, August 2024, life looked different. I got the captain promotion, leading a small team at the station, dating Megan steadily, not living together, taking it slow, but it was healthy. My relationship with my dad and sister was stronger than ever, financially stable. I'd sold the wedding rings for scrap, used the money for a weekend trip with Megan. I heard through old mutual friends what happened to Lauren. She'd moved to Raleigh, fresh start. Found a nursing job at a smaller clinic, not a hospital. Her reputation had followed her. Living alone, not dating that anyone knew of. Relationship with her parents was strained but civil. Social media barely active. My feeling about her? I didn't wish her harm, but I didn't wish her well either. She was just gone from my life. A chapter that closed. Scott lost his PA license for a year, now working as a medical equipment salesman. Big pay cut. His most recent relationship ended. The affair with Lauren was the final straw. He wasn't my concern, never was. He was just a symptom, not the disease. People still ask if I regret what I did. Honestly, no, but I wouldn't recommend it either. Revenge didn't heal me. It gave me control when I felt powerless. What actually helped was therapy, time, and people who showed up for me. Building a new life. I learned the difference between promises worth keeping and promises that kept me prisoner. Lauren's vows were chains. I broke them. Now I was free to make new ones. To myself. Valentine's Day, 2025. 1 year later. I took Megan to dinner. Nothing fancy, a casual restaurant. She asked, "Does today bother you?" I thought about it. Not anymore. It's just a day. We toasted. To new beginnings. As we left, I passed a jewelry store, saw engagement rings in the window, felt a brief pang, then nothing, someday maybe, but not today. And that was okay. If you'd asked me a year ago if I'd survive this, I would have said no. But here I am, not the same person. I'll never be that naive again. But I'm better, stronger, free. Lauren wanted a fresh start through vows. I got mine through breaking them. Some promises aren't meant to be kept. Some are meant to be returned with receipts. And some are meant to be broken so you can finally be whole.